I moved out of Moab. I think it was, yeah, it's 2012. And I have a feeling that Moab's changed significantly since then.
Moab has changed significantly since then. Yes, yeah, it's boomed in the last decade, just over a decade. I don't even know how many traffic lights are in this town anymore, but 10. Which I mean, once upon a time there was one, and hotels, several hotels every block. Busy season pretty much is spring through fall. Even the summer doesn't slow down too much anymore. Yeah, it's wild. And then certainly Moab base jumping has continued to take off and grow, and yeah, it's pretty
When
wild.
you say grow, you mean significant amounts of numbers, new numbers of people coming through?
Yeah.
Or so like Turkey Boogie, for example, is probably like the biggest time that everyone comes to jump. Like the weather is the most stable, and that's just like the historic time that people that come want to come and jump. Back in the day, it was sort of like, I mean, back in the day, I mean, I'm not that old, but um, there's people that would go and sort of like focused around Mary's Gash and Mineral
Hmm.
Bottom,
Yep.
and now I have a feeling that it's evolved tremendously, right? Because you guys have your raffle, you have your fundraiser, you have this enormous party. Like if I was to come back to Moab now to do some slider down jumping, I would need a complete refresher about like how not to kook it. The only thing I really remember is like don't walk on the tufa, right? So
Yeah, watch out for crypto.
yeah,
Don't bust the crust. Yeah, it's. I mean, there's a couple thoughts there. So once upon a time, Turkey Boogie was just that. It was Turkey Boogie. It was the week of Thanksgiving, and we'd all rally out here, and there'd be what 30, 40 of us. Um, Now Turkey Boogie is maybe 300 jumpers, and then a handful of their friends, and plus simultaneously we have this uh, Gobble Gobble Highline Festival. So there's kind of two separate festivals with a lot of people that participate in both activities, and we're all kind of friends. So both events are happening at once, and usually the gatherings in Moab were maybe two, three times a year, and it was kind of someone sent out a message saying, "Hey, let's all go to Moab this spring or this winter or this fall." And we'd all pick a week and be there. Now it seems when I think Turkey Boogie, I think like from September until December 1st. It seems all fall. There's just always jumpers here, and yeah, I mean as Moab has been more and more on people's radar, and as base jumping has exploded, the season window is longer, and the amount of jumpers flooding the area is significantly greater than when you and I were out here. Um, yeah,
I remember the discussion about impact on the ecology, the community being the town of Moab, search and rescue, all of those points like being a point of discussion about how much more can they take, right? And
yep.
now 10 plus years later, it can take a lot more, it sounds like. But I don't think it's just alone. Part of the fact that it's been able to sustain so much activity and traffic is because you guys as a community have taken steps to ameliorate the situation, right?
I like to think it's the steps that we put into it, but I'm honestly surprised how much Moab has been able to handle. How much impact from base jumpers? Because again, yeah, I mean, a decade plus ago, we were all worried like, oh, they're going to shut this down eventually for sure.
Yeah.
It seems that what we do is so off the radar of most people in our own little world. It feels like we have such a big impact. Most people don't even know we're here. Yeah, sure. There's a significant or noteworthy rescue pretty much every year. And that's always the time that we all panic and freak out. And no doubt I sound the alarm and probably been the one saying, hey, this is not sustainable. I've been probably screaming that the loudest, the longest. And I think in some way, someone has to say that because even if you can, you want to be on the safe side of things, right? Like, hey, let's keep in mind at any point they can pull this from us. They can shut us down. Jumpers don't like to believe that. They like to say, oh, well, they can't guard all the cliffs. True, but who wants to get hung up on a wall, break their femur, and then also get a ticket? um, you know, it just seems like there's ways that we can do it there's healthy ways to have a relationship with Moab versus that renegade style of jumping, which just doesn't seem to work here.
I think renegade jumping has its time and place, right? Mostly in the shadows in urban environments. It's really nice to go out in nature, enjoy that nature, and then be able to like pack, on a lawn at a park without having to worry about police.
Absolutely, that's one of the fun things about Moab is that you can simply enjoy where you are, even on a windy day. You can. Who doesn't like sitting on the edge of a canyon and just staring in awe? Or perfect day. You can pack next to 10 of your friends in a park in grass, and consider one of the hundreds of jumps that you have, in your backyard.
So back then too, it was all word of mouth, really. Like I would ask Diego and I would ask Rich Webb, like, "Hey, I've never been to Enterprise or Lollipop or something," and they would take me out there. There wasn't any guide or anything like that in France, in particular, in Europe in general. Now we have all sorts of different resources like Base Beta, etc. Um, are people using applications or websites like Base Beta to find exit points in
Definitely. I'm
Moab?
not super fluent in it. Maybe I've been here too long. Maybe I don't care as much about checking off every single exit. But yeah, definitely. There's a number of people. Taz has been working on the Moab Base Association stuff, and then they're constantly adding new exits. And there's a number of the apps that I hear about a handful of time of years. Someone will hit me up and say, "Hey, I have this beta." I'm mostly oblivious to it. Again, not being in the wingsuiting scene, it doesn't really make a difference. I'm pretty comfortable walking around Moab and figuring out if it's a good idea or a bad idea at this point.
Hmm.
Also, like I said, a lot less motivated about checking off every single jump. But there are definitely a lot of guys out here just constantly exploring new areas and finding new things and keeping it interesting for themselves and the rest of the base community. There's no end to new jumps in Moab. We've always said that, and it still feels the same.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, it can be ridiculous, right? Like someone will take a couple of steps to the side, and boom, new exit. Just
I
opened it.
have been on those loads. Like, we just disconnected an anchor from 10 feet. What do you mean we're opening this? Yeah. Anyway.
um, yeah, so let's continue on this theme a little bit, if you don't mind, because it's nice to help people who are listening to, who are probably going to be listening to this in their car on their way to Moab. So let's see, let's try to think of some other things that really help out when you have been here or coming for the first time. I remember like we were involved in a rescue for one of our jumping buddies,
Yes, we were.
and we were in a group of people that included world-class climbers, people that were part of first responding, units, and someone hit a wall, landed up on a pillar, and we were all just sort of like, "What? Okay, what do we do now?" And that was quite an experience. I mean, I think things have changed a little bit for both of us now, but would it be fair to say that it's a really good idea to have like a plan A if something goes wrong that you can like self extricate, meaning like have some ropes and know how to get out of a situation if you're hung up on a wall?
I mean, absolutely. If you can self rescue, self rescue. Um, I think we romanticize that idea sometimes. Some of us show up with a rope and a harness and think we're gonna be like, all right, sweet, we're sorted now. Absolutely not. Like, sure, maybe you can secure that person, maybe you can rescue that person, maybe that person's bleeding out internally and you don't have a clue what's happening. So I'd say bare minimum, have a way of getting help. And usually that's an in reach spot, some type of emergency beacon, right? When shit hits the fan, um, have a way of turning off the fan. Um, so yeah, for me, it's some method of sending for help. Um, Hopefully, the skills to stabilize a situation, or having knowing who your point of contact is, who is the climber, who is the med person. Um, don't don't start considering rescues when your friend is on the wall. I think you and I both, uh, yeah, got a healthy dose of that. And I don't know what year that was, 2011 or 10 or whatever. But yeah, there's no worse feeling than when someone needs help and none of you have a goddamn clue what to do. So, yeah, I'd say think through what you're going to do in worst case scenario. Have radios, have an in reach, have a spot, whatever it is. Have someone that can set up a rescue in the event that your friend just got hung up and they're just sitting on a ledge and we're all going to tease them about it over beers later that night. Know who the medical guy is on your team or in your area, and yeah, have a plan in place. If you don't have a plan in place, you're kind of coming out here just hoping for the best, and Moab has proven repeatedly this is not the place for that. So yeah,
It gets cold. I mean, these rescues take a really long time.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Sorry that like the rescue for our buddy took, I think, 7 hours, something that
Yep.
was preposterous. Like,
Yep.
you think, okay, someone's hung up on the wall just over the ledge. All they need to do is like sling a rope around the truck and then, grab them and come back up. But man, I mean, it's so much more involved that, most people don't think of. I mean, you and I were both involved with search and rescue and rescue services. So we knew a little bit, but I mean, maybe you weren't even involved in that kind of stuff at that point.
I had zero background in that at that point. Yeah.
They drilled holes for anchors in 2 different locations, these big holes. And climbing isn't rescuing, right? Like climbing, you have like a way of lowering and a way of ascending that's way more laid back. And there isn't a backup to the backup like you have in rescue operations. So it took a long, long time. And I'm sure that they would have expedited the situation a little bit more if he was in really serious, dire condition and bleeding out on the side. But what if they were doing another rescue, like right down the cliff? Like that would have just been it, right? Like it would just, that would have been, not only would it have been 7 hours, it would have been maybe the next day, if that.
I've been on those rescues too. Absolutely. Yeah. And, it doesn't seem that their procedures change much based on the severity of the rescue. At the end of the day, putting more people at risk to save one person doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Like losing 3 people, worst case scenario, is not going to make up for that one person that put themselves in the situation. So no, they're usually focused on safety and being redundant with safety. So yeah, I think people come out here, and I've seen it also in recent years at Turkey Boogie, where someone breaks themselves up, and I remember hearing on a radio, "Call in the bird," and I think people thought it was like this emergency, like just I don't know, they've seen it in a movie or maybe Lauterbrunnen. And that's kind of what happens, right? They'll get their helicopters anywhere and they'll long line someone out. That is not the way the helicopters work here, and as you already kind of alluded to, rescues here take a long time. Just to get them to figure out where we are and then actually travel out to us is going to take hours. Hours. Which I think this topic all started by something you said, which is it gets cold out here. Turkey Boogie, the last number of years, in my opinion, has been super mild. We've had days that are in the 70s, 60s. People are walking around in t-shirts. It's been perfect jumping. For sure, there's been a couple days of snow here and there, and the nights dropped down to freezing. But I think you and I both remember some turkey boogies that were down. I know I've been to 1 or 2 that there were nights that went to 0 degrees. And that's always my biggest fear is we always like to get off that one more jump at the end of the day, one more off Tombstone, or one more like after your epic day in Mineral Bottom. Let's get our 5th jump. What's going to happen when you hit that wall and you're stuck on that wall? Totally okay. You're just hung up on a wall. You're now up there for hours in a t-shirt. And I see it every year, and I'm just like, oh man, that's going to be a terrible way to go. And I mean, it didn't happen here in Moab, but there was a number of years ago, someone died just from the temperature up in Twin Falls. I'm not sure if you remember that. They couldn't find their way out. Jumped in the middle of the night, and then couldn't find his way out. And yeah, he died
Just
because of the elements, the temperatures.
Elements.
Yep,
Jesus.
correct. And I mean, talk about helpless, right? Like, man. So anyway, this year I'm seeing that the The high temperatures are looking like they're going to be somewhere around the 50s, and quite a few nights in the 20s. So like jumpers, definitely end of the day, last few jumps, keep in mind,
Don't
you know,
forget to
it
wear your
could turn.
jacket.
Yep, whether you're jumping or rescuing someone, it can get real cold real quick here in the high desert. So I'm glad you brought up temperatures. Other things like that come to mind for me, most simple things. We don't even think about them usually, but these are the things that piss off the community or piss off the authorities, BLM. Um, Congregations. Anytime you see 100 of your homies around, it's awesome. You're having a time of your life. Congregations are one thing that kind of it puts us, it makes BLM notice us. So avoid massive congregations, and if you can't avoid them, certainly don't be obnoxious. Don't have a campfire in the middle of a parking lot. Don't have your packing tarp in the middle of a parking lot. There's a lot of other people that are not base jumpers that don't understand why there's someone packing a parachute behind their car and now you can't move for an hour. They hate when we have packing tarps in the middle of the parking lots. Don't drive off the roads. That's a big one. Something that we've definitely struggled with in the last number of years. Some of the most epic spots, Dragon's Nest, the Fisher Towers in general, Perry Up Mesa, is human waste. TP. I went out to Perry Up Mesa, I think 2 years ago, and there was just toilet paper all over. And everyone drinks their coffee on their drive out, gets there before their hike, and nature calls. Yeah, those are the few topics that every year BLM brings up to us. Stay on the roads, clean up your waste, avoid congregations, and don't park in the middle of the parking lots. So if you don't want to be that guy, just do those simple things.
What do you do with TP or human waste when you are going towards the exit?
Put it in your buddy's stash bag. Truly, if I'm going to, I live here, so I'm pretty good at figuring out where the bathrooms are. At this point, there's outhouses at
Yeah,
Tombstone.
but you remember when you
Oh,
were like
absolutely,
first jumping, like, you're all excited and you take a dump and then you start thinking about the jump the closer you get to it. And all of a sudden
yep,
you got to take another
for
one.
sure. Yeah, no doubt. I think, yeah, adrenaline is brown is something I've heard Miles say a number of times. um, that's one of those moments you got to figure out what's best, right? Like I don't have a, we can come up with these situations where it's like, I don't have a wag bag, I don't have a lighter, I don't even have TP. At some
Okay.
point you're gonna have to figure it out.
You
Don't leave.
savage.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Figure it
don't
out.
ever
But
touch your left hand is what you're saying. Okay.
yeah, if you ever see me missing one sock, know where it went. It's somewhere behind Tombstone. No, I mean, yeah, just don't leave that stuff. Figure it out. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Every year, um, Moab locals have started doing a good job picking up under exits. So under Tombstone, under G Spot, under Mary's Gash, and every year someone finds a pair of underwear that just has a big old dookie in it, and like just abandon the underwear. Not the best procedure, but like it sounds so silly, but people are doing it, so try to avoid being that guy. Hold it, or pack it out.
Noted. Don't shit in your
Yeah,
pants.
yeah.
Okay. You heard it here.
Shit the Rio.
Yeah. Man, it's funny. Like you would think that you don't even need to tell people this, but yeah, it's true that TP, especially here in Chamonix, like you just go on a trail and you're like enjoying this beautiful weather and looking up at the mountains, and then like then there's toilet paper on the ground. It's just
Yeah.
like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's weird, and especially out here in the desert. I mean, it stands out. Yeah, it stands out. It will be
Like
there for
white
a
on
long time.
red.
Yep,
Do you carry like a medical kit when you go jumping?
I do. Yep, yep.
What do you have in that kit?
I've got. I ordered a pretty good trauma kit. I'd say half the stuff in there, I'm not even confident I would use. But I have been in situations where there were people that said, "Oh man, I sure wish I had a decompression needle." And if I can look at that person and say, like, "Hey man, in my car, I've got a full on trauma kit." So that's what I've had. That's what I've got. And there are a number of highly qualified people around the Moab scene that. Were you on that scene last a number of years ago when we're leaving names out of the rescued? Is that
Where
is
there
that the
was a
theme?
chest
Yep,
decompression?
yeah,
Yeah.
correct. Were you there for that?
I wasn't there,
All right.
but I heard
Spence
about it
needle
like right
depumped.
away. Yeah,
Yeah.
like and that yeah, decompression saved him.
So, yep, absolutely. So
American wingsuiting would be a whole lot different if that hadn't happened.
that is for sure. Yep. That was one of the wildest things I've ever seen. Um, but anyway, I mean, so things as advanced as that to, I mean, it's pretty simple what you need sometimes, right? Like tourniquet, splints, pretty basic stuff, emergency blankets, headlamps. It sounds so silly, but I also keep just snacks in my emergency bag. I keep extra clothing in it. Um, yeah. What else is in there right now? You've got your first aid stuff, but then you got your stuff if you're on a rescue for over the night, which again, I've been on those, and we're all looking at each other like, man, I would do anything for food right now, or a
Yeah.
jacket or a headlamp. Just fill up an emergency bag with stuff that you hope you don't need, but you sure will be appreciative for, that once a year that you do need it.
Yeah, I've been out on some of those long missions and like finding a smashed up like power bar. That's like the thing that I can think of now with, disgusting trail food. But then you get into a situation like that and it's just the most delicious thing ever.
That's so funny you say that. One of the accidents we had out here last year, it was a long and gruesome one, and search and rescue seemed to be kind of keeping their safe space from us. That we were kind of working with them the best we could, the most they would allow. We're doing our best to kind of ease the situation, and this call was recovery, not rescue, and it had been long. And anyway, we weren't really winning SAR over, and all of a sudden I opened up a little pocket and realized I had a bunch of snacks in there, and they were mostly candies. That was all Katie. She's more a candy person. Anyway, I pulled out a handful of candy and kind of laughed about it, thinking, man, this is so my wife. And then the whole SAR team was just eyeing it up so hard, so aggressively. Like, hey, man, how about that candy? And that's how we won them over. So, if nothing else, you'll make friends with SAR
Bring
if you
candy.
give them snacks. Yeah.
Let's see. There's we talked a little bit about like what to have, and then how do you get this question now? I mean, I don't know how much engaged you are with new jumpers, but do you have like sort of a rule of thumb about like when people are ready? Like, is it after like their second year? Is it after
Oh
about a
man.
hundred jumps at the bridge? Or, like this is like the questions I get on the wingsuiting side of things.
Yep.
I'm wondering like, what is
I
it
love the way
like?
you asked the question. Most people ask, how many jumps do I need to come to Moab? And I think you're setting yourself up for failure, right? Because if you tell yourself you need to do 30 jumps, 80 jumps, 200 jumps, you think something's going to click when you hit that number, when you approach that number or surpass that number. Nope. It's a matter of the mind. It's a matter of the person, right? Like, if you're self aware, you'll know when you're ready. Unfortunately, a lot of jumpers really struggle with being self aware. How realistic can you be with yourself about what you've done to prepare yourself? That's the name of the game. So there's not a set number. It's how much thought, how much time, how much action have you put into preparing for Moab? What I think I'm old and um, scared, and yeah, both of those are true. Um, you want to have put in more effort than most people want to believe. I think Moab's a dangerous place for jumping. Sure, thousands of jumps happen every year here, um, but it. In the words of Jesse Hall, the funny thing about rock is it's mostly made of rock. It hurts. Moab hurts. When everything goes great, time of your life. When everything goes wrong, it's violent, it's brutal, it's uncomfortable. Um, every year I see people that come out here, they say they're not going to jump, and then their buddy tells them, "Oh, come on, let's get you your first E. Let's get you your cliff." And sure enough, just by being here, just by proxy, they are on the edge of a cliff doing what they said they weren't going to do, what they damn well know they're not prepared to do. Um, I think I'm kind of talking around your question which is like, how do you know when you're ready? And it's it's pretty personal. There's it comes down to self-awareness. And if you're sure you put in the work, if you sure you prepared yourself, if you know that you've done it, awesome. If you're trying to convince yourself, or your friends are trying to convince you, you're not ready.
I like that you said self-awareness there too. We talk a lot about that, and one of the things that this amount of self-awareness that I lacked was I kind of saw base jumping as a sprint at the beginning because I was so obsessive about it. Everything was about jumping. I thought, okay, this weekend I'm going to go skydiving. I'm going to do 10 jumps, over the weekend, and it's going to get me that much closer towards wingsuit time. And then I'm going to go and do some power towers. I'll probably be able to do 2 or 4 jumps from the power tower. And then, everything just seemed like so important right away. And, talking to you and seeing how long you've been in the sport now, and I guess me too, it seems more like an endurance activity, right? Like, thinking about enduring this long process. I mean, we can't emphasize it enough, right? Like, it just becomes more and more fun later on down the road, and the more time we're willing to put into training and being satisfied with these little small steps, the better our skill set becomes, the better the activity becomes, the more confident we are. And yeah, so it's interesting that how it changes over the years, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, goddamn. Can you imagine me now talking to me a decade ago? I mean, two totally different characters. I was fearless. Yes, so eager to check off every style of jump I could figure out, and absolutely obnoxious. and and now I like to think I've yeah, a lot has changed, is what I will say. And you're right. The longer you stick around, the more you just enjoy jumpers, jumping, being outdoors. You realize, like, checking everything off simply doesn't matter. Being happy matters, and yeah, putting your life at risk is not gonna. You're not going to achieve anything by putting more chips on the table. I think jumpers like to. There's this weird notion that the more fearless you are, the more chips you're willing to put on the table, so to speak, the more badass you are. But I feel like jumpers that have been around a while kind of raise their eyebrow and just look at you like, man, you're simply risking everything for nothing. Yeah, take your time, have fun, and yeah, it's base jumping. You should be doing it for personal reasons, not for achieving any level of acceptance or peer approval. Yeah.
Back to your rowdy days, like right away, what came to mind
Damn it, Lo.
was I'm not going to tell one of the stories. Don't worry.
Good, because I think my mother-in-law is going to listen to this.
There was like, as a 3-way on Wall Street, and
that means something else.
Yeah,
that means 3 jumpers.
3 jumpers. Mother-in-law, we're talking about base jumping. Yeah, so I think you did like a barrel roll. God, I want to say it was Charlie and Chris, that I can't even remember his last name. And you guys all landed. I could be getting the jumpers wrong here, but you guys all landed, and it was just like huge eyes. Everyone like didn't really talk, and it was. Do you remember that jump even?
Was it yes, I do. I think I almost went through the top skin of Sean Dunlap's parachute. Is that the one you're talking about?
Man,
I pulled
Sean.
my feet up over
my
the
bad,
nose
Sean.
of his parachute.
Right.
Yeah, we had done a 2-way, and we left at the right time, but he was standing at a position where he's lower than me. So although he was the high man, he exited and was just below me. Anyway, yeah, he deployed. I remember it was a double barrel roll. I came around and just saw parachute, and he, of course, he had a 90 right into me, and I tucked my feet and went by him. And yeah, I do remember that. Those were very much, yeah, the days when one person did an aerial and you thought, well, I've got to one up that. Which is about the most idiotic way of base jumping, but I don't know, maybe it's a phase also.
Is this time of year is it high traffic season for tandem base jumping?
We slowed down a bit. October was pretty good. Yeah, we were pretty busy in October. We just wrapped up. Last weekend was a sprint. We did a 22 jumps event. That was pretty cool. So we had a bunch of veterans out here, jumped with them, and then took them on a bunch of other Moab adventures. Usually 22 jumps works with experienced jumpers that are also veterans. This was an event that was for non-jumpers that are veterans, and that was pretty cool. Anytime busy season in Moab is spring and fall. So we'll, of course, be busy when town's busy. A lot of the people that come here for tandem base jumping come here because of social media. They see something and they get their mind set on it and they're like, oh, I need to go do that. So the people that do that often don't really follow the tourism season. They're just trying to check off their bucket list experience. So I never
I met
really
one of
know.
those guys recently. He had was planning to do a tandem base jump, and LeBlanc and Marine called me up and said, "Hey, we need a camera guy to film our tandem wingsuit operation
Yeah.
like in a couple of days." And I roll up, and there's this guy there. His teeth were so white; it was like clear instantly that he's American. And and he was like super fired up. Long story short, such a cool experience following them in the sky. Like,
Yep.
just an awesome operation that they're running. The passengers have a time of their life. And we landed and he was stoked, and we were just, carried on a little bit of chit chat. And he said, "Oh yeah, I'm talking to this guy, Matt, and we're going to do a tandem base jump." And I was like, "Oh, no way. This world
Yep.
is so small."
Yeah, I know exactly who
So
you mean, and he was such a good dude. He went from you guys, and then a week or two later was in Moab, and yeah, he did 3 tandems with us in
oh, 3, cool.
24 hours.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then I forget what I think he had already gone wing walking, or maybe he was going wing walking next, and then he was going shark diving, and yeah, he's all over the place. But what a fun dude to make friends with, and yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah,
What's something that really stuck out in my mind about him is that he said right away, with like no reservations, that he was like, "Yeah, I'm not really the guy to do it by myself." So, and he didn't care. He wasn't like, I think some of us who participate are so like independent thinking that we're like, of course, I'm going to go learn how to do it by myself. But he was like, "No, this sounds fun. I'm going to go connect with somebody that's a professional, and I'm going to jump off a cliff and boom, move on." And I was like, "Wow, that's pretty freaking rad."
I agree. It seemed a little um, not on the path that most of us are on, but most of us, yeah, we get so hyper focused on our objectives that we keep hold that course. It was pretty cool that he was the opposite and very comfortable with it, like you said, but then just willing to go check off 1,000 other experiences that I'll probably never do because I'm so focused on the handful of experiences I do love. Yeah, he was an interesting character that, yeah, I'm super glad I met. And yeah, it was pretty cool to see him out there in France, tandem wingsuiting, and then, 2 weeks later in Moab, tandem base jumping.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up earlier, like, can you imagine me talking to my 10-year younger self? Do you think that back then you ever thought that you would be living in Moab running a tandem operation?
Hmm.
I don't
My
even know
answer.
if a tandem base jump had been done at that point.
10 years ago, yeah. Mario, I think, was
Mario.
doing them here.
Yes,
And
you know what?
yeah,
That's
Mario.
right. That they started doing tandem base jumps back then. Yeah, when
Yeah,
I
he
was
was around
living there. That's right.
2011. I've tried to figure out his actual first jump. It was 2010 or 2011 here in Moab. Chuma's been doing them out here, kind of dabbling in them ever since. But it's funny. Okay, so Mario, I remember jumping with him. I remember seeing him, and I remember thinking like, man, first of all, forget tandems. I thought that guy was like the blueprint for being
The right
a
jumper.
base jumper, right?
Yeah.
He was a role model in a lot of ways, from canopy skills to opening exits to the way he carried himself. Um, yeah, he was just a role model to me, and I specifically remember thinking, man, that's incredible. That guy's doing tandems. I'll never be, I'll never be that guy. And I was, ever since I got my tandem rating in 2009 or 2010, I forget. It was right around the same time he started jumping. Um, it was always like a distant goal, but something I was always flirting with. And over the years, in 2014, I started playing with the permit process. 2017, the insurance process, and there was one or two things that kind of slowed me down. And anyway, I just decided like it was time Do I think I no? I mean, there's no way I could have. First, there's two parts to your question. One is, did I ever see myself living in Moab? And no, I avoided living in Moab for a number of reasons, for a long time. So, but it kept bringing me back, and I kept spending more and more time here. So the Moab box is checked, and tandems. From where I sit now, oddly enough, it's the thing that makes the most sense for me and for my life. I mean, this is the rabbit hole I went down. Not just tandems, but base jumping. And I think my background from being a school teacher to being just a rowdy character, my brief stint at the fire department, just background with a lot of fundraising and summer camps and working with community and large populations of the community. I think that helped me excel with tandems, because I kind of get to know where people are coming from and I get to know how they operate under stress. I've also got about 10,000 tandem skydives, learned a thing or two in that time. And that doesn't just mean about parachutes. I think the most important part, like parachutes, anyone can figure out, but understanding like the psyche of someone sitting in the lap of a stranger, experiencing 10 out of 10 fear, knowing how you're going to, which hat you're going to wear with each person. I think that's the part that a lot of people struggle with. And that's the part that I'm, yeah, figuring out how I'm going to work with each person. That is the part that I cherish. That is, I mean, yeah, helping people go from this is a bad idea, I don't know why I signed up for this, to pounding their chest in the landing area, watching them like shed happy tears and scream, "I'm the fucking man." That is this. That's what yeah, makes it
Simply
fun for
awesome.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, it really shows in your social media presence. Like the passenger is really put forward as the star of the show, and I think it's also the way that you talk to them at the edge. I really enjoy some of those videos. If you go to your page and you look, it all kind of looks the same, right? It's like someone standing behind someone else at the edge of a cliff, or there's a big, base jump Moab's canopy, but you really have this way of engaging with the passenger that's pretty special. And I think that a lot of people who idealize being, whether it be tandem skydiver, paraglider, even a mountain guide. I think a lot of people get into it thinking, okay, I love the mountains. I'm going to be a mountain guide. And, being in Chamonix, for example, that's the example that I can relate to is like, just because you love the mountains doesn't mean that you're going to do a good job or enjoy your life taking people into the mountains under high risk situations. Like I remember approaching the Aiguille de Midi, and just like that, a woman, like you said, 10 out of 10 fear, doesn't know where the tandem paragliding instructor is. He's kind of snickering because he knows that where she's looking for, and he kind of like calls her over. He doesn't even stand up, and they're just like he's like continuing to smoke a little hand rolled cigarette, and it wasn't at all the ideal situation that I would want for, like a family member or some, I want somebody who's like you, who's enjoys vicariously the experience that the passengers are getting. And I mean, obviously that goes without saying, but then also like highly trained and seasoned parachuting. The one thing that I don't quite understand, maybe you can help me understand, is like what can go wrong? Like
Hmm.
what are the things that experience will help negate when someone who is new to base jumping thinks that, oh, it's just a static line base jump, they always go on heading?
Yeah, definitely don't think that. Certainly for your own safety, but definitely not if you're considering tandems. Um, so what can go wrong? I mean, the obvious, right? Rigging. There's a number of things like our deployment system is super simple until it's fatal. If you mess that up in any way, it will be an immediate double fatality. So make sure that you get that right every time. And okay, and then yeah, all the things you need skill for, but what that person is going to introduce to the experience is unknowns, right? They're going to ask you questions. They're going to have anxiety. They are going to, not intentionally, they are going to unintentionally do everything they can to distract you from the obvious. And the second that
Mm.
you give up that required attention to detail, um, you introduce a world of chaos. Um, and it sounds so silly, and I'm sure a lot of young jumpers think, "Oh yeah, but that wouldn't happen to me." No, it happens to all of us, right? We all get distracted. You need to be able to operate in a way that you can, you know, how to immediately respond to whatever that passenger is experiencing, but also uh, achieve the super simple goals. Um, what can go wrong? I mean, I think the most obvious, yeah, again, deployment 180. The parachute opens the wrong direction. The wing loading and yeah, it's that will be a, that'll be a rough situation. I've heard what a number of people are saying will happen. The reality is the wing loading of the parachute and two bodies with a line twist is going to be a disaster. And yeah, and then from there it's landings. Um, yeah, I mean it's pretty much the same as any other base jump, just
A lot heavier.
yep, a lot heavier, and your ability to respond is going to change. There's a lot. There's a lot. I treat it more like tandem skydiving, and I laugh at a lot of skydiving stuff. But I like to debrief everything. I like to over communicate with anyone I work with. Yeah, and just really make sure we're constantly thinking about what we're actually doing, and how to avoid any of the things that you're asking about.
So just to kind of summarize a little bit is like you have a systematic approach, and with your experience over 10 years and 10,000 tandem skydives, you have an ability to sort of like to deal with the distraction a little bit and or completely, and um, and then react with the passenger as they're maybe not trying to get you hurt but have out of ignorance, or swinging their
Yep.
hips or whatever, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of like actual parachute stuff, I do my best to go through it systematically, and then I'm not afraid to. It sounds so silly because I know there's a lot of tandem skydivers that like will do their handle checks and they'll do it out loud, and it's just a way to get into a routine. There's a lot of people kind of laugh about that instructor, and I was always that instructor. As much as I was always wild and crazy and distracted by a million other things, I was also always like checking everything out loud. I do the same on tandem base jumps. I'm not afraid to check my bridle routing and say it out loud, check my connections, check the whole deal. The more times you do that, the more you're padding the experience, the safety in your favor. In terms of like the clients, yeah, they're trying, like I said, unintentionally trying to distract you from all the things that are important. Um, yeah, I mean, having been around parachutes for 18 years, having done over 10,000 skydives and a ton of tandem base jumps, um, I like to think of it as like usually pretty early on, they're going to show me what they're bringing, like in terms of their behavior, their fear, their anxiety, how they're going to project it, how they're going to behave. It's never going to everyone's going to be different, but they're usually going to fall into a category. And I've got about 5 different categories, and I can kind of size up what they're going to do and what is going to work best for me to help them. And so I kind of like naturally, a lot of my responses to me, I watch the videos and like I know exactly what I was doing. I know exactly why I said what I said, and it's almost a conditioned response, because I don't know if it's the school teacher in me or sitting in Cessnas for too many years, just figuring out how to help that person through the experience. Yeah, it's a conditioned response, and I know what hat I'm going to wear to help them through what they're experiencing.
You said you worked in the fire department
Hmm.
for a brief stint.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there was things that you got out of the fire academy or working in the field that you have applied to your life in regards to how you approach dangerous activities?
Yes. Certainly. I mean, everything. everything in my past makes me who I am today. My fire department stint was brief and it was also recent. It helped me become more experienced with some of the medical stuff. Certainly not trying to overstate my actual medical experience, but yeah, certainly. I mean, if you're gonna spend a year responding to I don't know how many calls a day and seeing everything and anything, yeah, it's gonna help you. It's going to make anyone think about doing everything differently, driving your car, drinking soda, and certainly base jumping. Um, yeah, there's a lot that it influenced. Yeah, I think it would do everyone good to see what those guys see. Um, yeah.
When I started base jumping, I was fresh out of well, I guess, yeah, I was working as a medic and I had been a wildland firefighter before that. And I totally borrowed from the fire service. Just recently I got a new rig from Squirrel, and I was happy to see that they're still sending out these 5 minutes for safety cards that I made.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that was something that was, pounded into all of us as firefighters, is like the watch out situations, and what can go wrong, and visualizing all of the common dangers and whatnot from the exit point, and before that as well. So the exit point was the fire service was really influential in the way that I approached base jumping, and probably still does, even though it's been 14, 15 years now.
Yep. I think it definitely influenced who I am and yeah, how I carry myself in the outdoors, around base jumping, skydiving, whatever. Um, yeah, for me, it's a matter of like, it made me realize. So when you get into base jumping, there's this talk of how current you are and being current, and current will make you safer because you're practicing your skill. But I also notice it helped me notice that we get comfortable risking more, right? So the more you do something, the more comfortable you get with risk, um, and you don't realize how much more risk you're actually introducing, and you've just become too comfortable with it. And it definitely applies to base jumping. Um,
I'm just looking over this card again, and it's funny because I haven't looked at it in a long time. But yeah, that was number 6, is account for the double-edged sword of currency and complacency.
yep,
Yeah, it's a
it's a
double-edged
thing.
sword, huh?
You need to be current. You need to practice your skill, but understand. I mean, how many current talented jumpers could we sit here and name in 60 seconds that are either dead or their lives are forever been negatively impacted by base jumping because they just got too comfortable with their craft? And whether it be keeping up with their gear or again just introducing so much risk that at some point it was just not sustainable. I, I don't know how many names we'd come up with, but it'd be a
Yeah,
lot.
skill and survival really don't have a whole lot of correlation, right? I mean, you
Well
need
said.
to be skilled to a certain extent to survive, but then it becomes a double-edged sword, because the more skills that you acquire, the more novelty that you continue to seek, because of these endochemicals that are released when we do it start to like not be as powerful
Yep.
from that standard flat and stable from a big X amount of X high cliff. You got to start doing things that are more novel. You got to start trying new things. You got to do more and more and more to get that same hit that you
Yep.
had before. And at a certain point, right? Like, I don't, you have to just sort of be content with other aspects of it for continuing to participate.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a tough phase to get to, I think, for a lot of jumpers. I don't want to sound. Yeah, I forget how I sound. Yeah, it's a tough point to get because you kind of have to survive it in order to get there, right? Either that, or you need to be really strong and maybe have lived a lot of life prior to it. Really be pretty heads up and headstrong. But at some point, you have to practice the craft. You have to get out there and become a base jumper, and push through that phase of checking the boxes and um, yeah, becoming competent, and also not get carried away with ego or silly mindless tasks that will that have no benefit. Mm.
You know, you're now in, I don't know how many years of in a career for Sky Sports, and, and
18.
18. Okay. And we're talking about longevity in terms of base jumping, survival and stuff like that. There's another element here of longevity and, canopy sports, being a professional skydiver, paraglider, base jumper, what have you, can wear on people tremendously. I mean, the amount of people, friends of ours in common, that have been burned out from doing tandems, from flying in the tunnel, from taking people on paraglider rides. It's the vast majority. Um, what do you think the characteristics that you bring to your career have made that different for you?
Well, first, I don't know that they are different to me. Let me say that absolutely I've experienced burnout on things that I long loved, right? Tandem skydiving to me was a blast for a long time. Now, man, please don't make me, like, um, so I think mixing it up, finding a lot of ways to keep it interesting and don't do the same thing over and over and over, because even if you love it right now, and even if you love it in 3 years, that day where the human brain is just not designed to do the same thing over and over and over is coming. It's gonna, your brain's gonna recognize, oh my god, I'm so unsatisfied. I do the same thing every day, and the monotony just it's a heavy burden for, especially the way that most jumpers are wired. Sure, we're all different, but like we have a lot of similarities in personality types, and um, yeah. So keep learning. Um, don't identify as don't. Oh man, so many people are. I'm a base jumper. I'm a skydiver, and that is their identity. Like they've given up everything else. Um, life is life is filled with a lot of amazing things that will make you feel awesome and have fun. Experience them all. Don't identify as I'm the wingsuit guy, I'm the tandem guy, I'm the base jumper, I'm a skydiver. That's a, in my opinion, that's a road that is, you're going to hit a rocky point. You're going to hit a point where I don't want to be on this road anymore. I want to do something else. There's a lot of ways to have fun, so don't be afraid to mix it up. Um, yeah,
That was the
yeah.
same advice that Robbie Peshnick gave. He said, have some diversity in your life. I
I
mean,
said it
talk
way better
about,
than him.
oh, you
Love you,
did,
Robbie.
especially with your American accent. But yeah, like having, keeping things fresh and not cross training, even,
Mhm.
like, and talk about somebody who's well seasoned and still participating at a really high level.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, that's
Incredible.
great advice from both of you. What is some of the things that are keeping you excited outside of base jumping these days?
Um, so for me right now, I mean, I've got this new endeavor of tandem based Moab. Growing that and figuring out feel like we've kind of thrown ourselves in the forefront of that scene, and yeah, trying to do it responsibly and grow that. But that doesn't answer your question at all. That's right back into um, parachutes.
Well,
But
I
it is
want to
new to
hear
me,
about that
so
too.
so
I
I'm
want to
mixing
hear
it
about
up.
that too. So we can. Why don't we put that on the side and then come
Cool,
back
yeah.
to it?
Right now, I love being in the mountains. I love hunting. I sound like an old man, but I absolutely love it. Most things anything outdoors has always been kind of something that where I'm going to find my mind is most at ease and I'm happiest naturally. So I focus on things that take me outdoors. Love travel. I love being near the ocean. Mm, yeah. My stinking dog, the best dog ever. He's a full grown wolf, 15 pounds.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
I had a hard time with work. I've been having a hard time with work lately. Covering the situation with Israel and Gaza is particularly draining. I mean, I can't complain about my situation while the things that I'm seeing are just some of the most horrendous, and it's truly a dark, dark moment in human existence. But washing my dog And, hitting the vape pen and washing my dog for about an hour was like probably one of the most therapeutic things I've done for myself in a while. It's funny.
It's amazing what a good pet will do for you.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Um, what would you say is like one of your major struggles with your tandem based operation these days?
That's a good question, man. Struggles. Trying. I want to keep growing it, but I want to grow it responsibly. I've been amazed how successful we've been. And it seems that we are not yet at the max capacity, but I don't want to grow it irresponsibly or like recklessly. I'm pretty timid about working with other people and finding people that like, man, I'm not trying to sound smug, but I feel are fully qualified and also carry themselves in a positive manner, or at least are able to have that switch. I think I've always been a little bit of a puzzle to a lot of people because on one hand, like when I met you, it was like, man, that guy's crazy. He was streaking the bar. He was doing these crazy jumps, reckless. And they're like, yeah, he's a fifth grade school teacher. And then like someone would see me the next day and they're like,
What?
what? He's Mr. L right now. Um, anyway, I finding people that have that switch that can be base jumper in one moment and professional guide in the next moment. um
Let's linger on that for a second because I think that's really cool. I think a lot of people who are approaching the sport maybe kid themselves that they have all the attributes. And I think you, as a business owner who are looking to trust your whole life basically at this point in their hands, probably have to have a certain set of attributes. What specifically are you looking for in people that you work with?
People that are self-aware, they know what their actual strengths and weaknesses are. um People that absolutely have the parachute skills, people that are not in it to tell people that they are, you know um yeah, I'm a tandem base jumper. It seems there's a lot of people. It seems to be a current fad or like a box people want to check, and that scares the bejesus out of me. Um, yeah, level-headed or reasonably level-headed, or the ability to, like I said, have that switch where, okay, I'm not just a bro up here about to huck some sick jump in front of my friend. I am going to meet this person where they are, which is they are about to face the biggest fear they've ever had, and I'm going to figure out how to help them through the experience. I'm going to make them feel awesome. I'm going to make them experience absolute terror and then absolute like pride. Um, so parachute experience, just good communicator.
Wait,
Um,
you just brush over that one. Parachute experience. Is there a minimum that you're looking for in people that want to come work at your operation?
there's a lot of people that I've talked to in the last year. A bunch of people have approached me, and there's a couple people that I've approached. I think there's one person that I've approached actually. Um, so I like the numbers in my head of 10,000 skydives in 10 years around the sport. There are one or two people that have far exceeded those numbers, and it's like, hey, we need to work on this part of it. Um, like I said earlier, numbers aren't going to keep you safe. I need to be able to like assess the situation as it really is. Just because on paper it seems right doesn't mean it's right. But the numbers I listed are kind of what I like to say, and then we can work from there.
I kind of have this visual of you like standing out in Mary's Gash with like a bunch of like recruits, and you're like hosing them down, making them do burpees and stuff like that.
Oh man, we need to make
people,
that video.
people are people are
Yeah,
ringing the bell because they
Catchmart,
can't
you're gonna hate
handle
me.
the training.
Oh god, I think yeah, most base jumpers want no part of it, and yeah, I understand that and respect that, and yeah,
So being switched on, having a bunch of experience under their belt, not only with under parachute, but time in the sport, and
yep,
then an element of empathy.
yeah. I think you may have said it better than me. Yeah, good communicator, be able to understand that this is about them, not you. Yeah.
Speaking of communicating, what is it like to be married to someone who base jumps?
Um, Most of the time, pretty awesome, man. Yeah, I like the way you asked that question too. What is it
No
like to be
idea.
married to someone that base jumps? So these days, to be clear, I mean, she base jumps more than I do these days. I'm very much not in my prime in terms of like getting out, getting after it, doing the most cutting edge, badass stuff ever. Pretty checked most of my dream jumps off and experienced most of what I want to experience. She likes to get after it, and she's just happy to be out. She doesn't care if she's jumping with someone with 30 jumps or 30 years in the around base jumping. She just likes to be out. And I mean, that's the ever looming question is like, you know, what am I going to do the day I get the call? And I like to think that I prepared myself for that. Having been around jumping long enough, I've lost best friends, roommates, girlfriends. Lost a lot of people, like most people that have been around this stuff. And so certainly it's something that I've prepared myself for. Never to imply that it's, I don't know, man. How do you put that?
Preparation
Like,
only goes
I
so
could never
far.
ask her not to jump because then she wouldn't be her, right? Like, she, hopefully she's jumping just like the rest of us. Hopefully she's jumping for her own benefit, her own happiness, her own self exploration. If I were to ask her not to do something she loves, I've now forever changed the person I love. Um, I don't know, man. I mean, shit. I think you and I talked about it, and yeah, Katie had an accident that I probably I should have lost her to a number of years ago.
Can you can you describe that? Like the
The
accident
accident or
happened?
the
Yeah, what happened?
Katie, um, yeah, Katie went in. Um, Man, that sounded weird to say. Yeah, she went in and walked away, and I got the call, and she said, "Oh no, I got the text. It said, I'm fine going to hospital." And I was like, "This is not a normal text. I think I'm going to pick up the phone and call." And then, sure enough, I did, and she explained she had an accident, and she full on landed a wingsuit, and went to the hospital, and the hospital told her she's going to be sore for a couple days, and yeah, it was for
The
me,
hospital
honestly.
told her that she's going to be sore for a couple of days.
That's yeah, that's the American healthcare you hear about overseas, Lo. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, I wasn't intending to reflect the hospital at all. It was, I mean, it's just a crazy situation. Um, yeah, like I said, I mean, I've been around a lot of loss, probably too much loss, and that was one of the weirdest ones because I say it was the easiest for me, and I think that's got to feel weird for her to hear. Um, all I know is that essentially I didn't experience I
Can
didn't
wait,
experience
I'm sorry,
loss. I did
before you go farther, can you explain that a little bit? The
which
easiest
part?
one? I
Okay,
mean, because
so
she
I
didn't
mean,
actually die, so
correct, yeah. By the I mean, it was all said and over by the time I even found out about it. Right, I wasn't on site looking for her, wondering, "Hey, why don't we see a parachute? Why didn't like I didn't have to deal with any of that. By the
thankfully.
time it got to my radar, it was I'm okay. I'm gonna go get checked out. Um, for yeah, every other incident like that I've ever been on, it's like, hey, like I've got to go through this traumatic experience of potentially something pretty gruesome and scarring to the fuck all that. I'll deal with that 100 times over. The worst is contacting parents, right? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the worst, man. Looking a mother in her eye on Mother's Day, and yeah, um, yeah, telling her son's dead, like that shit sucks. Yeah, that's enough to make me want to tell everyone, don't base jump. No, that with Katie. Um,
Well, wait, it's not just base jumping either, though. I mean, because you and I worked with fire and
yep.
as a medic and as an EMT, and that happens in all sorts of domains in
None of us are getting
life.
out alive, that's for sure.
And
It does, Lo, but
I'm not saying that normal life is just as dangerous as base jumping. I think in general, base jumping accelerates life. You get exposed to way more highs and you get
Yep.
exposed to a lot more lows. And all of us seem to come at this life with a little bit more. For example, when my dad died, I had more experience with death than anybody that was there. And it really put me like in a kind of uncomfortable situation at first. Like kind of, I had some self-doubt because I was, telling my uncles, and I was coaching my mom, and I was coaching everybody around me, people that were twice my age, about what dealing with death is like. And yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. Sort of lost my train of thought there.
It sounded like you were kind of just saying like, I don't know, we experience loss, but so does everyone else, or like I said, kind of none of us are getting out alive. And I agree, but I mean, even at the fire department, again, not trying to overstate my fire experience. Yes, we're all gonna die. Does seem, man, I have no idea. Could you sit down and name everyone that's you've known that has passed in the last 20 years? It's
Absolutely not.
impossible. Impossible.
Absolutely not.
No, so like it, and I can't say that to be true of anything else. Um, and yeah, man, it's like, so there's something I kind of know where maybe where you were going with the story about your dad, and it's coaching other people, and um, yeah, once you're around it, you kind of really understand the gift that you have, which is life, right? Like it's this these day every day you wake up, it's like, hell, man, I'm gonna go experience something that puts joy in my soul and a smile on my face. Um, Now it's me that's losing my train of thought. This is two old men rambling at each other now, Lo.
Two old bald men, to put
Yeah,
it
two old,
concisely.
good-looking men. I agree.
Why don't we talk a little bit about, because what you were going to say was that that was the easiest one because you had
Yeah,
prepared the most for it.
well, hang on one second. The reason that was the easiest was because I experienced no loss. I experienced no trauma, right? To me, it was like, oh my God, I got away with a miracle. She got away with a miracle. We got away with a miracle. So to me, my life didn't change aside for like, I mean, she's one of the those crazy stories that you hear about. And yeah, so it made it easy versus all the other ones, threw off 6 months to 5 years of my life. um, yeah. And yeah, it made me more appreciative of her and happy for her. And I got to experience that in a new way, which doesn't go down that way often. Usually that's it, that's all, that's the end, time for a new chapter, and some hurt and some grief and confusion and stuff like that. And that wasn't the case. She came home and she got to keep going through her side of that.
You said that you have lost partners in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, if if it's interesting, yeah, I'll forever shout their names: Katie, Canal, and Rami. I mean, Rami's, I yeah,
The most legendary tracker of all time in base jumping.
yeah, and I'll stop you there because we love that word. We love the word legend, and I've heard the word legend a million times in base jumping. He's the only one I'm aware of. That dude ran into sure death, for a base jumper that had drowned in front of him, and he just followed her in. I think, in the words of Adam Crum, something like, "Base jumping didn't kill Rami, friendship did." If that's not like one of the most legendary, heroic, badass things that someone could say, about you after your life, I don't know what is. Um, anyway, yeah, Katie was someone that was special to me. We had been dating for a while, and anyway, we have our story, which isn't to be shared here. And yeah, man, that I don't know. Yeah, dating a jumper comes with all
Some
of the
emotional
normal,
baggage.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to, I guess, say in a more complicated way. It's a lot of emotional baggage, and we're all willing to put our own self, our own body, our own being on the line when we base jump. It's a different thing when you're like, oh man, I'm gonna have to deal with all of that. When you're talking about dating a jumper, and a lot of times it's whatever, it's sustainable, it feels good, but when the day comes, it's a lot. It's a lot. And anyway, I love Katie, and she's nothing but inspiring to me, and one of the strongest, smartest people I know. And I'm just lucky to get to sit back and watch it.
I mean, you clearly moved on and are having a fantastic life. I wonder, after being through that experience, if you have some experience that you want to share that maybe helped you to move on.
I thought in terms of Katie and Rami, I thought I handled that great. And maybe I did for a month or 3 or 6, but I became super callous. I became super hardened. Definitely dabbled with alcohol more than I should. The first thing I did was cut alcohol out of my life for a period of time. But that period of time went, I said, "Oh, I'm good." And next thing you know, well, I wasn't an alcoholic or anything. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but like I definitely found myself using it as a crutch and didn't realize I was doing so for a long period of time. And yeah, hold on to things that are positive. Man, the worst thing I did was become bitter and callous and angry. I think I hit it reasonably well. But yeah, no doubt, looking back, it took me years to realize that it had negatively impacted me. I thought I'd put on the strong face, and I'd kept up the Laj image of being rowdy and funny and doing all the cool stuff I wanted to do. But very much I carried a lot of remorse and guilt and stuff. So yeah, I hold on to the things that are healthy. Hold on to things that are positive. Don't be afraid to feel. Seek
That's
help.
really good advice. A friend of
Yeah.
mine just had a really difficult call, and she ran a pediatric code,
Hmm.
and that was unsuccessful. And I was like, sending her some text messages, like, and consoling her a little bit. And I don't feel like I'm someone that can give any advice. Like, I just have my own experience, and one of the things that really like helped me now and helped me then was just like allowing myself to feel that stuff, just like allowing myself to be because like you, I thought I was good at it. I was like, I just move on,
Yep.
like I didn't have a partner pass, thankfully. That's a whole different scenario, I think. But there's a culmination of like being exposed to death and trauma and all the things that come with it. You know that, and on top of being a first responder, so it was like, oh no, I do this all the time. It's not fine. And like you, it took years to realize that, oh shit, I'm not smiling very much. I am sort of focusing on the darkness and did you do any? What are some like practical things that maybe can help people to like engage with right away? Like, did you go to therapy? Did you
No,
seek
I
some counseling? Did you? No, you didn't do any of that.
no, I didn't. No, I pushed on through. I put the smile on. I kept doing things. And again, I think for a while I thought that by just carrying on with life, I was, quote, being strong was the right thing to do. And really what I was doing was neglecting self. And no, I think it took honestly my relationship with Katie Hansen, my wife, to kind of open me up and make me kind of deal with some of the things that I was dealing with. And I think prior to that, I had just become hardened and was, I don't want to say faking it. I still felt like authentic, but calloused, man, for sure. I was putting on a smile and very much carrying a lot of guilt and shame and all that stuff. No, I here's what I'll say. What I found about those times is nothing can make them better. Like when someone passes, there's no words, there's no thing you can do to make it better, except give it time. You need to trust that you will make it through that period of time. There are things you can do that will make it worse, right? So that's what I know. You can't do things to make it better. You can do things to make it worse. Now, I mean, it's kind of like both can be true. Um, yeah, sure, counseling's going to be better than alcohol. So you can say that, counseling will make it better, Matt. Maybe. The words, what you have to do is stick around. You have to live that period of time. You have to be honest and authentic and feel and just go through the hard time. And it sucks, man. There's nothing worse than when I see one of my friends going through that and like, hey, just make it through this period of time, because time will heal this. It will. It doesn't make sense now, but time will heal this. And then there's the opposite, where the negative things. You can get angry, you can get violent, you can go down the drugs and alcohol route. You can jump your face off, and sure enough, we'll bury you in a couple months also. um yeah, stick around. Be Find things that make you happy, or that make you happy. For me, like I said, anything outdoors is going to make me happy. If I can go sit in the mountains, if I can go sit in the desert, if I can go sit on a beach, um I'll see something beautiful that will inspire me to know, like, hey, a brighter day is coming. But if I dabble in the the, the hard inside of things, it's that's not a road that's gonna be serving. Yeah, self-serving. I don't know. Yeah, I think everyone's different, and unfortunately, base jumpers are a pretty unique, interesting mindset. That, yeah, we just got to go through the highs, the peaks and valleys, kind of thing. The highs are high and the lows, man. Yeah, they're rough.
You said earlier too that there was like a common thing about our personalities as jumpers. Do you have any examples in mind about
Hmm.
what makes people, or how can you pull someone out of a lineup that's a base jumper? Besides, well, they'll tell you, but after that,
So, I mean, not really. I think I'd end up rambling, but like, okay, just yes. I mean, we're a subculture of subcultures, right? Most people, if you look at a cliff, like, wow, that's beautiful. Now you get to the top of a cliff, and they're immediately going to back away and say, and then you explain to them what base jumping is and like what we do, and try to make it sound like rational and beautiful. That's absurd to 99.9% of the population, right? So even if we're two totally different types of jumpers that are, take one that's living in a van, insane, selling pot, and one that's a successful doctor. Just like these two totally different people, they are of the same subset of, like, yeah. Um, I don't know. We're definitely we challenge the normal grind, right? I think most of us are pretty willing to question routines and do things differently. Um, Maybe not so willing to settle down into um, just normal jobs or routines. Or a lot of us, didn't get married at 18 and have kids at 18. There are jumpers that did and do, and that's all fine too. But again, most of us tend to deviate from norm, whatever that is. I think that's
yeah,
probably
I
the
guess you're
biggest
right.
commonality.
Probably, I think we're all sort of willing to risk it all to have a special life, to have these special life experiences.
Agreed. I think most of us would rather just experience as much as we can and actually, yeah, firsthand, like real life, like, whoa, holy shit, there was this, or just have amazing stories. Like, you're not going to believe this story. Let me tell you. Versus, yeah, yeah, monotony of
We have shared
9 to
some
5.
pretty awesome stories, and we you
Dude,
were talking about Mario earlier, and for the other people there, we had this weekend where
hell yeah,
we
we
called
did.
it Attack the Fishers.
Yeah,
And we had all of our friends that came out highlining on the Fisher Towers. We had parachutes, climbers, and
climbers, speed wings, base jumpers. Yeah, man, that was a great event. Nice work.
one of the highlights for me was when Mario landed
Mm-hmm.
on top of the Fisher Towers.
Yep, me
Uh,
too.
and I think that you were one of the guys that attempted it right before him. Am I wrong?
Correct. Yeah, I wasn't going to say that because I was going to sound like a colossal douchebag. But I remember, again, being a young jumper and having heard he was going to do it. And he was awesome. And yeah, I did. I went a jumper or two before him and I was like, well, fuck it, I'll give it a go. And I did. And I was committed and committed and committed. And sure enough, I got, right there and then just turned away at the last minute. Wasn't right. I mean, Mario had properly prepared for doing that. I was just all ego, all
Send
I
it.
can do it. And then like, nope, I'm out. And
Well, give yourself a little bit of credit. I think you laughed as you pulled away. Like
that sounds like what I would have done. Like, yeah, nope, I'm faking it. Agreed though,
I
man.
feel
That
really bad. It was Ellen and I for sure that jugged
mm-hmm.
up there,
Yep.
and someone had set static lines all the way up.
Yep.
Thankfully,
Yep.
I don't remember who it is, and man, I'm sorry because that's a lot of work, and I was really appreciative. We got up there, and it's like it's not a big area. I would say it's probably like a landing area that at the very most is like 12 feet, 13 feet long, something like that.
Yeah,
And
Kingfisher proper. Yeah, that was Mario's landing area for sure. Was yeah, that's a good estimate. People seem to crash into the boulder field now. It seems to be like rite
okay.
of passage these days. And yeah, it's going to be interesting the day that there's a rescue up there. But
I mean, it's been repeated, but he did it with so much
correct.
style.
Correct.
And like there was
Preparation, style. Yep.
all of it,
All the things,
execution,
all the things, Mario. Yep.
and then repacked at the top and then hucked a gainer, of course.
Yep.
But one of the things that I sort of didn't expect, and learn from that was like, oh, there's all this lift on the face, like you guys are coming into land on the sunny side of the cliff or the tower, and there was all this lift, and he knew that there was going to be a bunch of lift when he arrived, and so he came in low, so like almost like the nose of his parachute was like in line with the landing area, and if there had been no lift, his body would have and everything just smashed right into the
Yep.
side of the tower. But then
Yep.
just at that final moment, the lift picks up and the whole thing picks up and he boom flares and lands, and it was just, oh man, it was spectacular. It was just
Absolutely, man. Yeah,
cheering.
that was
You could hear the cheering
13
from
years
the
ago. I
exit
think that made
point.
all of us proud. I feel like we all experienced it almost as if we did it because most of us were in some way like, yeah, we were friends with him, but we were fanboys of him too. Like, and there was like, he was the type of guy that you wanted to root for, like what he was doing was impressive, but he didn't carry himself like it was impressive. He just was doing what he wanted to do for no other reason than that he wanted to do it. And he had done all the, I don't know. I remember hearing rumors of how many times he had practiced it and flown right over top of it and right by it. And yeah, did all the work, not
Yeah.
just, hey,
I
I'm going
mean,
to put
I'm
all the chips
convinced.
on the table.
Yeah.
He was, no, I'm going to do all the work. Yeah.
I'm sure that he didn't do it then on purpose. Like he would have done that. He could have done that and not told anybody and been
Yep.
totally fine with it. And I
Yep.
think that that's something that's full of class. It just happened to fall on a period that there was just a bunch of people out there, and
Yep.
so
Yeah, that
it
was a
was
great
like,
event, man.
oh man, it was so fun. One of the only things I think that saved us, like because we were all going pretty hard, and it just like the whole day was getting harder and harder, and people were ripping speed wings through, like barrel
Yep.
rolling around the towers, and the base jumps were happening, and it was just like it seemed to like pick up this momentum, and at the end of the day, it was like, whew, we survived that one, and then it snowed.
Yep. I remember that too. It was like, everyone,
Perfect.
all right, enough, get
Perfect.
out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
This is going to end poorly. Yeah. That was a great event. I've long talked about doing that one again, but I kind of feel like that's one of those chasing your tail things. Like it was just a magic moment. Don't try to recreate it. Sure, you can do it again, do it, but don't try to make it what it was, because that was just a magic time, man.
It was a
Less
magic time
jumpers
for
and
me.
Yeah,
and
younger in my
for all of
career,
us.
and yeah, for sure.
Is there any jumps outside of that event, or that you look back on and like smile about how amazing this is? Is there anyone that sticks out in particular?
Like any one jump.
Yeah,
Um,
it might even be a trip.
oh man, those days, the right there in that era. That was, I mean, I had moved from the East Coast to live in Boulder, Colorado because I thought it was close to Twin Falls. Turns out it was like an 11 and a half hour drive. I didn't do that research and I just moved to Colorado. Thought I was going to go to the Prine every weekend. Realized that was not an intelligent thought. And yeah, became pretty competent in just road tripping around Colorado and Moab. Those days I wouldn't trade for anything. That's what I want so many young jumpers. God, who says that? The old jumper. But yeah, like so many jumpers are trying to check everything off and experience everything and post everything. It's like you are experiencing what you're going to look back on as like one of the most magic times of your life. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Like the road trips, the laughs, the friends you meet, the silly stuff, the stuff that pisses you off, like the things that go wrong, the jumps you don't get to make. That is the magic. There's something special about like when you decide, yes, I'm going to become a base jumper, and then actually start to live it. Um, is one of the most liberating, special, unique experiences I know of, and certainly that I've ever experienced. To like just be content and go through it, and don't try to be the man. Um, I'm way off now. I'm just ranting, but I for me it was yeah a lot of the early days in Moab. Man, I was 2008 to 2012 was a special time here for me. Um, I think you named a couple of the ones. Yeah, I loved aerials at that point in my life. So there were some beautiful ones, and there were some ones where I almost went through the top skin of people's parachutes. And didn't you and I jump with a hang glider once? Were you on that load?
Yes, yes, we did.
I think so. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That was super crazy. That was off Mary's, and
Wow, that was something I almost forgot that. Yeah, that was
yeah,
pretty
man,
wild.
that's right. Yeah, that was pretty crazy because we were able to essentially be like in free fall, and then he peeled away from the cliff, and we were just like, "Is there just an airplane in free fall with us?"
Who was
Yeah,
on the glider? Was that
no
Diego?
idea.
Was it
Oh
Diego?
yes, I think it was Diego. Yes, it was Diego. Yep, yep. He launched it off Mary's Gash, and we all just ran with him. Yeah.
Dude, that guy was like an institution for me in Moab. Like he was the anchor, like he was friends with Ellen, and when I first arrived, like he knew how to like show us around to all the really great spots and loved his approach, and he was one of those guys that flew all sorts of contraptions,
Yep.
he flew all the toys. Real special
It's
time for
funny.
me as well.
Yeah. Jumpers like that are so influential. Like that's not why they're doing it, but like I don't know. It's kind of the way I've talked about Mario and the way you're talking about Diego. Like these people that like just show you the blueprint of like not only how to jump sustainably, but kind of like a way that you can admire, just in a way that present themselves and carry themselves. And yeah, those people are super important. And I've always been super appreciative of yeah jumpers that you can kind of look up to and admire. And yeah, it's awesome. Kind of.
Yeah, there's something special about our sport. I always kind of like grimace a little bit when people say, "Oh, I'm in it for the people." Like there's plenty of sports out there where, the people are pretty cool. Like mountain biking,
Yep.
the people are cool. Hunting, I'm sure the people are cool. Jiu-jitsu, the people are great. If you're just in it for the people, there's another sport where you can do it. There's this
Mm-hmm.
element of like camaraderie that comes from being a part of something I think that's like so exhilarating and dangerous that builds some special bonds.
Definitely.
And this mentor relationship that you can develop with some people too that help you find the way, um, that is pretty rare. And I mean it was one of our motivations too, or for starting this podcast, is it seems like you know so much time and so much wisdom was learned around these campfires in Moab and other places, and those people like Diego and Rich Webb and Mario had so much to share. And I feel like as the community grows and the participants grow, the circumference of those fires are only so big. So there's only so many people can sit around and listen to them. And yeah, now we can, broadcast it to a small little niche group a little bit more, and passing on that wisdom with each of our guests.
Yeah, well said.
Well, we kind of got a late start, and unfortunately, I've got to call it a day. Matt,
Cool.
it's been a real pleasure chatting with you. You shared some really nice insight, shared some vulnerability about loss, and also some really inspirational things of what we should all look to achieve through our path and base. So thanks, man. I really appreciate
Yeah, man. Always good to catch up. Stick around.
it.